back to another episode of Hawk Talk here on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. Pretty good Wednesday so far. I'm joined by an esteemed crew of Zach, Brendan, and Austin returning. Unfortunately, Mason and Creston are under the weather today, so they won't be here, but wish them a speedy recovery. How are you guys today, though?
Hey, we're doing fantastic.
Fantastic?
Doing better. I mean, I got kicked out into the fishbowl by myself.
Yeah, you got exiled this week because of what you did. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, well, we're going to start with our Warhawk thought here, which is the best nickname given to any player in any sport. Just give some insight as to why it's your favorite or how they got the nickname. We're going to start with Zach.
Yeah, I would have gone with Jonathan Kuminga. If you know, you know. But obviously that's not suitable for 91.7 The Edge, so I'm going to go with William Perry, the refrigerator. I think it's just funny that someone would just nickname him. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, whoa.
Excuse me. Let me start again. I think it's funny that someone would nickname him the refrigerator just because he looks like a refrigerator. I think it's really funny to me. I mean, dude was 6'2", 335. He was on the best team of all time, in my opinion, 85 Bears. And they would put him in the backfield, you know, even though he's a defensive tackle, which in today's game is basically putting like Aaron Donald in the backfield, and it's basically a cheat code back then. So I'm going to go with William Perry, the refrigerator.
Yeah, he's up there in my top nicknames. I knew somebody was going to say him. I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect you to say him, but, you know, classic nickname.
You thought I'd go LeBron James, probably, right?
Probably, yeah.
I was going to go with Andrei Kirilenko, but like you said earlier, if you know, you know. As a basketball fan, I had two that I couldn't decide between, so I'm going to go with both. One guy that I really love, 2K legend for me on old rebuilds back in 2K11, 2K12, Samuel Dalembert, the Haitian sensation. It just flows off the tongue perfect. And then the other is Dennis Rodman and the Worm, because it just, if you had to think of an animal to describe Dennis Rodman, it's the Worm. It fits him so perfectly with just the way he just bounced everywhere, here, there, for a rebound, you know, and it's just a great nickname for Dennis Rodman. Mm-hmm. I love him.
Yeah, and we were talking about it just before we went on air, is like when he's describing how he moves, he really does move like a worm. Like you go there, psh, psh, like how he describes it in The Last Dance. That guy's a technician for rebounds.
I kind of have two. One's like not as serious. The White Mamba, Brian Scalabrine. That I always
never heard that one.
Funny.
Legend.
You've
never heard of that one.
Everyone they were always saying how he wasn't that good of a player in the NBA, and he said he'd 1v1 anybody, and every time he would have people come to a court, and he'd beat them, and then he kind of gained the nickname the White Mamba. So I thought that was funny. Otherwise, it's kind of basic, but Michael Jordan, his airness, I feel like that one's just so that shows how good he was. If you refer to him as his airness, that's just
iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is. That one's self-explanatory. That one's just so good. There's some nicknames out there that are just so perfect for the player. I've got a couple. Two are kind of repeats. So there's Sid the Kid for Sidney Crosby, and then there's the Kid, Ken Griffey Jr. I think those two are just classic names. But my favorite overall is Megatron for Calvin Johnson. Yeah. Dude was a beast. One of the first teams that I watched, apparently, according to my dad, was the Lions. And it was during his time of playing. And just seeing that guy demolish defenders was just one of the greatest things on television at the time. But the reason why I got this topic to start us off was because I saw on, I think it was Instagram, that Yamamoto, they put a Yoshi in his locker, and now that's his nickname, so I just thought that was kind of funny. But with that being said, we're going to go straight into our first topic, which is who trusts in Russ. Most people had kind of expected that the Broncos were going to step away from him because it was there was a whole contract situation where if you don't, they were basically telling him to lower his extension or whatever, the money concerns. And if he didn't do that, they were going to bench him and they were going to cut him. He didn't do that, and they cut him, I believe it was yesterday. Hard to believe considering how much they gave up for him. That will go down as one of the worst contracts in NFL history with $245 million just gone. And he was only there for 2 years. I thought he had a decent season this past one. I think Sean Payton kind of used him as a scapegoat personally. But yeah, we're going to start off with Russell Wilson, and then we're going to move into some more of the free agency stuff because it hasn't even started and so much has already happened. So, Austin, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that might just be the worst trade in NFL history. I mean,
I wouldn't say worst.
They did so much, and there was so much hype around him, and they got nothing out of it. Like, they were in a horrible spot, especially this past season where they were bottom, and then they were like coming to the top to be the playoffs, but then they missed it. But they weren't bad enough that they were going to get like as good of a draft pick. I just think they screwed up a lot. Bringing Sean Payton in and having that like conflict, I think it was on paper it looked so much better than it actually like turned out to be, because it's not like the Broncos don't have like weapons. You know, they have like Cortland Sutton, like they have people he can throw to, but it just never. They don't like have an O-line. They don't have a defense really. It just fell apart, and I think that trade, it just like the Seahawks kind of fleeced the Broncos there a little bit. I'll give your Seahawks some credit, but I just like I kind of had a feeling that would happen in the back of my mind, but I didn't think the first season he played he would have played that bad, and then I didn't think that they would just give up after this short amount of time, but. And again, the Broncos haven't done much since their ring, so
yeah,
I'm not really surprised.
I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with the quarterback situation now. I mean, because the market isn't even that good.
Nope.
They don't really have a good pick to get a decent quarterback for their future, so they're going to be in a hole for a little bit. And I remember them saying that they were done with the QB carousel. Nope. They just hit the reset button, and it's actually, I think it's way worse than before because they gave off Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, who I think if they gave time could have been decent because he's had a couple good games in Seattle. I just feel like they gave up on him a little too quick. They just don't have much anymore. I mean, they've even made bad decisions with Randy Gregory. I mean, he was there for a little bit, and Frank Clark.
Yeah.
Those are guys that were like, they could have been good, but they just didn't. They either didn't have enough insight on them, or they just let it go of them just way too soon.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson pulled off the biggest heist in NFL history with what he did to the Broncos. He massively overperformed early in his career, which led to the Seahawks absolutely fleecing Denver, like you're saying. Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, Noah Fant even, and I think of 5 picks total. Just a total fleece job. That being said, Russ's first year was not great under, I'm drawing a blank on his name now, the current
Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah.
This year, I really didn't, he was an average to slightly above average NFL quarterback, and it just sucks because they gave them $242 million for 5 years, $161 million guaranteed. He's gone. You cut him. You still owe him that money. It's guaranteed. So you have that dead cap for the next few years to go. And not only that, but just the Broncos in the quarterback situation in general. It's just, ever since Peyton, just not great. As long as Elway's in charge, he always wants the next big thing for quarterback, and he always takes a chance. Drew Lock was supposed to be that guy. Russell Wilson was supposed to be that guy. They're probably going to end up drafting J.J. McCarthy this year and make him, quote-unquote, that guy. And the next thing in 2 to 3 years, it's going to be the exact same situation again. So as long as John Elway has, authoritative control over the Broncos, they're just going to be in QB purgatory for the next 20, 30 years, so long as he's involved.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy in that situation, that's not a good.
It just seems like a Denver Bronco.
It does, and that's why it's bad. There's always one quarterback that needs a year to kind of sit behind somebody. That could be J.J. McCarthy. That could be Drake May. I know a lot of people have said that Drake May is this year's Bryce Young. But, I mean, I don't know. I have a little bit more faith in Drake May than I do McCarthy. I feel...
I just don't like really any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft class.
Not a single one?
I have a kind of a hot take about that, but it's a free agency segment, so I don't want to dive into it. But in terms of Russ overall, I think he ends up going to Pittsburgh.
A lot of people say Pittsburgh.
I think they're going to move on from
Pickett.
Kenny Pickett, and they already let go of Trubisky. So I think Russell's going to end up going to Pittsburgh, and I think Mike Tomlin can bring the best out of him. I think he'll have a career resurgence, and kind of a hot take, I think he's going to win Most Improved Player next year.
Ooh, I would like to see
the
that.
Steelers are going to make the playoffs if he goes to Pittsburgh.
I'd
'Cause
like
I
to
think
see
Tomlin
that.
can bring the best out of him.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin's definitely one of the best coaches. Never had a losing season. Because he does have Pickens there, and I mean their running back situation is a little bit.
Najee's sufficient.
Not Najee and Warren. I mean, I think they're a good 1-2. But we'll see. We'll see. I'd like to see where he goes.
Yeah, I don't hate that take about Russ going to Pittsburgh. He definitely seems like a Pittsburgh quarterback. I think, with Tomlin. Well, Steelers make the playoffs every year anyways, so I think just with Russell Wilson gives them a better chance. Just going back to Russell Wilson and the Broncos, I can't believe that they're willing to take on $85 million of dead cap just to get rid of him. I mean, Sean Payton must just hate this guy. And I do think it's more of a coaching problem than like an actual Russell Wilson problem. First year, he had to deal with Nathaniel Hackett, who orchestrated the worst football game in NFL history, Thursday Night Football against the Colts, 12-9 game, probably the most boring game I've ever watched in my lifetime. And then second year, he has to deal with Sean Payton, who just hated him from the get-go. He just didn't want him. And so it's kind of hard to play under a guy that obviously does not want you. And it's not like he played that bad, like we said. Of quarterbacks that started at least 15 games, he's actually top 6 QBR with 98.0. And, I mean, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. It's not like he played bad. He wasn't the reason that they were losing all these games. Just as a roster, it didn't really seem like they performed to their standard. And I think that tells a little bit more about the coach than the quarterback. Like you said, I like the Steelers. I think that Tomlin will definitely get the most out of Russell Wilson because Tomlin's a locker room guy. He likes his guys and he wants to see the best out of his guys. So I think if he goes there, I think that's certainly the best spot for him.
Yeah. Now with Russ, with the 1 year, his first year there, I kind of saw some similarities from his last few games in Seattle, where I believe it was against the Commanders was his first game back from injury, and there was I can't even remember the receiver because he's a nobody now, but he was wide open in the end zone, and he just threw it to the wrong guy, and we ended up losing that game because of that move. And you could see those kind of moves in Denver. I mean, KJ Hamler and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy all had those kind of fits where they would end up just getting so angry at him because he was wide open, just completely missed him. So I don't know if that had anything to do with his injury early on, and then the second year he kind of got over that and he was able to reconfigure himself, or maybe it was just Nathaniel Hackett. But yeah, Sean Payton was 100% in the wrong for blaming everything on him. There was games where Russ was doing great, and it was just the defense's fault for letting up that many points and losing, and he would even still yell at Russell Wilson. So definitely using him as a scapegoat. But now I'd like to get your guys' opinion on what Denver should do in general now. Where should they focus in the coming years? I mean, yeah, quarterback is a big issue, but Austin, as you mentioned, I mean, O-line is pretty bad. Defense is pretty bad. Honestly, anywhere improvement is pretty good, but what do you guys think?
I think they're just going to have to accept another down year. Next year, they're just not going to do good. It's kind of like one of those things where you just don't expect, kind of like the Cardinals, almost like you tank from the start. There's not much you can do. You really screwed up here. Their defense is really not that great. Their O-line obviously isn't that great. I mean, you have some stars at receiver and everything, but there's just not much there at all. They're struggling in so many spots, and the last thing that you do in that situation is put yourself in paying, dead money, and that's what they did. So I think, honestly, they're just going to have to suck it up and take this practice squad team throughout the season, and that's it. I mean, they're just going to have to hope for good, maybe somehow trade someone, or just hope for a high draft pick. That's really all they can do.
It's tough for them because I used to really enjoy watching them, but yeah, they really dug themselves in a hole, and there's not a whole lot that they can do at this point because they don't really have anybody that they can really give up anymore. It's gonna be tough for them. What about you, Brandon?
I wanted to correct myself earlier. I said John Elway was still the GM. He's not as of last year, so that's on me for that. But I was trying to kind of tie the lines in of Elway liking his quarterbacks every year.
You're good, yeah.
That being said, kind of another hot take here. I think it all ties back to Sean Payton. I dislike the hire from the get-go, And I think so long as he's the head coach of that team, the Broncos will not succeed. I don't believe Sean Payton's that great of a coach, and I think he rode the coattails of Drew Brees to success. And ever since Bountygate happened in New Orleans, I have just lost all respect for Sean Payton, and I don't like how he doesn't take any credibility for when a team loses, and constantly, like we said, finds a scapegoat. Because Russ, you mentioned top 6 in QBR, 28-6 touchdown interception ratio. If you put him on a team like Kansas City, for example, or like just another offensively thriving team like Detroit, that'd be a tremendous example because of just how high powered their offense was. Russ is the top quarterback in the NFL, but because he plays for a team, that's 6-11, 7-10 every year, you're going to get trashed on, especially considering how good you were previously. That being said, you can't do well enough as a player if you have a coach that doesn't believe in you. And I think this is going to be a great new start for Russell Wilson wherever he goes. Like I said, I'd like to see him end up in Pittsburgh. But that being said, I think as long as Sean Payton's the coach and refuses to take any credibility or any blame for any wrongdoings from the Broncos, they're going to be stuck in purgatory, which is that 5-12 to 7-10 range for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with you with your first initial take on Sean Payton, saying that from the get-go you didn't like him there. I personally liked him there. I thought he was going to really change that offense. I mean, I thought he was going to, because when he first got there, it was a pretty okay defense or offense. I have no idea what happened to Javonte Williams. I mean, his rookie year, he was insane, and then all of a sudden, poof, just disappeared. That's
one injury will do that too.
It's just crazy. I wish we could turn injuries off in real life, on Madden. That'd be so great. But
imagine.
yeah.
Odin.
I mean, with Sean Payton though now, I feel like he's the biggest problem with that team at this moment. I mean,
100%.
Yeah, he's just gonna turn them the wrong way for years to come. The sooner they get rid of him, it'll be for the better.
Yeah, so I used to be a huge Denver Broncos fan because obviously I was a huge Peyton Manning guy.
Yeah.
So 2015 was just the greatest year for me because that was also when LeBron came back from.
Wow, there it is.
I'm sorry,
Oh
it was just a good year for me. It was a good year. But anyways, I think NFL insider Mike Tanier said it best. Sean Payton now has unchecked, unaccountable power over the Broncos. He basically is in a position where he can just do kind of whatever he wants, and that was kind of shown last year. Where he's not going to take credibility, He's not gonna. He's just going to throw it onto somebody else. And the Broncos now currently have 13 starting quarterbacks since Peyton Manning. I mean, they clearly just can't get it right. I mean, so I guess with the Broncos, what they can do from here is they can just kind of keep doing what they've been doing, sign some old, aging veteran to just take the reins for a while. I really don't want them to get J.J. McCarthy.
I
know
either.
that was an option. I don't like it. People on the show that watch the show know how I do not like J.J. McCarthy.
It's just the Broncos move. I don't like him either.
It is. You're right. It's just yeah.
You can't tell me you don't see him in orange.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because they would do that. But I think what they need to do is they just need to sign an aging veteran just to hold on the fort. I do think I agree with what you said about how they have to kind of take a down year. I also think they need to trade Jerry Jeudy. I mean, that guy is so supremely talented, but he has just never been used right in Denver.
I mean, I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him go there because he's one of the only two good pieces that they have, in my opinion. What would you even get for Jerry Jeudy? A fifth?
Well, you can get some capital that they traded everything away for to the Seahawks.
I agree with Steve Smith. He had an interesting take about Jerry Jeudy over this. He doesn't apply himself. He really kind of just slacks off. He doesn't really utilize the talent like he did back in college. And Steve Smith, tried to meet with them before the game, and a lot of people said, "Oh, Steve Smith's salty because he didn't get to talk to Jerry Jeudy." But I don't know. I just think Jerry Jeudy has too much raw talent to not have been successful. And I mean, you can blame it on the offense, but at some point, if you're not trying on routes, because there's several clips of him just kind of half-hearting routes, half running, not full speed. Dude, you're a freak of an athlete. You could generally, I'm sorry, like you earlier, generational talent. That's the word I was trying to say. Revolutionize the offensive position, wide receiver, and it just seems like his heart's not there. So I would a fourth or fifth.
Fourth or fifth. Man, I would say at least a third for that guy because Nah.
Well, you'd hope. I just don't think the market's there for him. Like you said, it's just talent over work ethic.
Yeah.
That's true. And then plus you're looking at the draft this year. There's plenty of receivers there. So yeah, the market. You're right. When you put that into consideration, it kind of changes up things. But speaking of the market, free agency really kicked off a little bit earlier. I mean, just today, I found out as soon as I walked in, Zach and Brandon were saying that Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White were released from the Bills, which is, I mean, crazy considering that that's pretty much their entire backfield because now all they have is DeMar Hamlin. And I don't think that that's really going to cut it for them. But, that's just two of the stars that were released. I mean, Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs were also released yesterday. Kevin Byard was released. A lot of guys are getting cut. There's also some franchise tags that were going off. So, which was I guess we can say with the biggest surprise with the cuts so far, and then go into who we could see going where and such. Let's start with Brandon.
Basically what you just said, the Bills releasing the secondary, I mean, they just completely unloaded. And as well as the Kevin Byard trade, because as a Titans fan, I was a huge Kevin Byard fan. He was easily one of my favorite players. And when we traded him to the Eagles, I thought, they just got their safety for the next 3-4 years. I thought they were going to extend him. And then just to cut him after, I mean, he didn't play as well as he did in Tennessee, but he's still a top safety in the league. I'd say easily top 5, top 10, fringe. And just for them to cut him, and then we mentioned earlier, the Bills releasing their secondary. I mean, Poyer, and that's just ridiculous. He's a top safety in the league, and I just think the Bills are just trying to find some ways to get some money and rebuild, and because the Bills have just massively underperformed the past few years. So I think they're just trying to take this new direction, and I think they're going about it the wrong way. I think the problem lies with Stephon Diggs, and they're overpaying him already. But whatever they need to do to try and figure it out, if this is the way they want to tackle it, so be it. But I mean, when you have a top corner and a top safety you're letting go, how exactly you're planning to rebuild that? Through the draft, that's another 3 to 4 years right there. You save cap, but what exactly is their plan? So I'll be curious to see what Buffalo does. That was the main takeaway, I'd say, from free agency so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that definitely swayed me. I thought, personally, before, I thought the biggest thing was Quandre dropping, because he had a lot of money for us, but I mean, he was definitely one of our better safeties. But going back to the Bills, there was people saying that trading Stephon Diggs wouldn't be the worst thing.
I think they should.
I agree. So
he had one of his worst years this year with Josh Allen, and I think Josh Allen is an elite talent, and I think to make that offense better, you don't really need to have a quote-unquote star receiver, because the Lions, I mean, you can make the case for Amon-Ra, but I mean, he's not like a superstar. He's great, but I mean, if you have just a solid group of guys like Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, Sam Laporta, I think instead of rather overpaying one receiver, if you divide that money amongst 4 good guys, I think with the Bills' offense and how they run it, you could have 4 Gabe Davises, just for example, because he's on the Bills. I think that'd be more successful than what they have now, just because of how pass-heavy their offense is. So I think by getting rid of Diggs, you free up the cap space, you probably acquire some draft capital, probably 3rd and a 5th, and I think you'll be significantly better on offense.
Plus, you get rid of that kind of drama tension in there, because man, recently he's just been I don't know.
Give me the ball, bro.
Yeah, and throwing fits and stuff. It's come on, man.
Well, he's always been a diva, right?
And then
even with the Vikings.
Oh,
the
yeah.
AFC Championship too, when they lost and he watched the Chiefs celebration, and he kind of started that trend for all these athletes to watch the opposing team celebrating.
Oh, dude.
Congrats, you got your
Corny.
Insta picture.
Yeah.
I think that is the corniest
He's
thing
been doing
ever.
it for 3 years now.
Yeah,
It's the Chiefs every time.
And I just- I love how-
I
I love how NFL memes, blood's still standing there. It's been 3 years. What's he doing? No, I think getting rid of him for Buffalo, like I said, 3rd and a 5th, free up cap space, and I think it would make their offense better, which is weird to say because he's such a good talent, but over time, I think it'll end up being better for them.
I 100% agree, and I feel like their biggest piece on offense that they've been missing for years has been a solid running back.
Yep.
James Cook, he's okay.
kind of came into his own like the last 4 games.
Yeah, that and
but overall has not looked like what he should be.
It's always
Not at
just
all.
been like they're okay.
Yeah,
Like, they're
exactly.
okay. Like Devin Singletary, like he was all right.
I mean,
It was
he is
never-
one of the running backs. Like,
Yeah,
exactly. He's a running back on an
Well, I mean,
NFL team.
yeah.
Josh Allen's also their running back too.
Exactly.
I mean, he runs the ball all the time, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like they really should, you know, as you were saying, I really agree with what you're saying with the receivers. If you get like some solid, skillful receivers, then that tactic will work just like how it did for the Lions. So I think that's a good way to put it, but they really do need to step up on their running back. That's just been missed opportunity year after year.
Really haven't had one since like Marshawn Lynch, and that was like late 2000s. Ever since then, they've really been,
Yikes.
like I said, Devin Singletary is like the only like
Yeah,
prime
that's-
one that can come to mind. Frank
Singletary.
Gore, I think for a year
CJ
too.
Spiller.
Oh, those
Oh,
were the days.
dude.
Throwback days.
Madden 25 goat.
I'll touch on my Falcons. I didn't get to say this last week, but they did release Jonnu Smith. So everything's coming together for the Falcons now, and I'm really nervous who they take at quarterback. But
They're gonna get
that's
Kirk
just-
Cousins.
Oh,
and I'll take it. I stand behind them. I think that would be
so
good.
good. Yeah.
I think that he's good, but I think that the Bills' window has closed, honestly, or it's
Wow.
very close to closing. They released Jordan Poyer. There's another guy, I think it's Siren Neal is their other safety, who also got released, who's obviously not as big of a name. Tre'Davious White and their kick returner, Deontay Hardy. Like, they're losing everybody. You have drama going on where they just can't get it done in the playoffs year after year, and that's when you had your top guys in. I mean, everyone's always hurt now, and if you're releasing all these people, you're going to have a bunch of holes to fill on defense. You have an aging... Is Von Miller still there? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's how old now?
37, 38.
Exactly. I think their window's done. They had to have beaten the Chiefs one of these times. They couldn't do it, and I just think that, like you guys were saying, I think Diggs is going to get dealt eventually. I don't think they're going to get as much as they want. And if this keeps up, I don't see Josh Allen staying there too many more years either because, I mean, he led the NFL in, what was it, total touchdowns and total yards? I mean, the dude can be really good. And I don't think that the Bills are honestly, like, he brought the Bills back. But now they're just at this, like, divisional round game. You know they're going to make it there, and they're not going any farther, pretty much. It's just...
It's really sad for them because, you know, on paper, they used to have like one of the most studded rosters. And then within a day, you question their whole success and everything. So, they're going to be down in the gutters for a little bit. Definitely the things that they could do, such as dealing Diggs. But going back to your Falcons, I don't know how true it is or anything, but there were talks about Fields to there.
You want to know my... Okay.
Yeah, I would like to, because I remember us talking about it a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
but like now it's looking more and more realistic. Again, I don't know if like how true it is to becoming, but
I mean, from what I saw, there was like talk at the draft combine this year that it was between... Some people were saying Fields was a really high, like they were talking to deals, and they have reached out to the Bears. The Falcons have reached out to the Bears about Fields. And then obviously there was a kind of dark horse, Kirk Cousins. I'll take both of them, obviously. I mean, Kirk Cousins, before he got hurt, he was putting up really good numbers. Obviously, you know, turnovers are somewhat a problem, but he was playing for the Vikings. I mean, he doesn't have like a Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. He has Justin Jefferson, but, I mean, come on. And then I think what would be better would be Justin Fields. He's younger. You can develop him more with all of this talent around him. I mean, having to stop him and Bijan, and now that Jonnu Smith is gone, hopefully they utilize Kyle Pitts. Drake London you still have, as well as our defense is still, like, they finished, like, 7th ranking last season. I really don't know what's going to happen. I would prefer Justin Fields because there's more time to build chemistry. All these guys are young, including him, so it can become a dynasty or it can become like a team. Whereas Kirk Cousins, he could give us like 2 or 3 good years, but then with his injuries that he's had, as well as just him being old, I don't know. I think he could be a good like substitute but I would rather take Justin Fields and have us draft like an edge rusher at the 8th pick, I think, because if we could solidify our defensive line finally, and with Grady Jarrett coming back, and just get a competent quarterback, I think we make the playoffs. I mean, obviously it's biased, but I mean, I don't know. I hope Fields, but if we get Kirk, that's fine, but I would rather not draft a quarterback. There's some saying that we would take like Michael Penix Jr. or J.J. McCarthy or people like that. Yeah, I know. I would rather not because, I mean, the team is so young. I want someone a little more experienced to lead the team. But then again, I mean, we've hit on our draft picks recently in the past year, so I think that'll happen, as well as Raheem Morris coming in, kind of reshaping everything. I think it's going to go well, and I think that they're going to be a good team next year.
Yeah. I mean, if I were in your shoes, I'd definitely prefer Justin Fields because the moment that they got DJ Moore, they instantly got better. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, so if you pair him up with that studded offensive crew, it can only go up from there.
I will say, with the Bills getting rid of their secondary, this solidifies DeMar Hamlin's chance of winning comeback player of the year.
Oh my
This is his time.
God.
This was all part of the plan. This was
They're
all
going to
part of
have
the plan.
no choice but to start.
Exactly.
Oh,
Going
man.
back, I'm so glad that you talked about the Bills Super Bowl window because I've been saying this for years. I just do not trust the Bills when it comes to a deep playoff run because when you rely so heavily on your quarterback, I don't think you can win consistently, especially those big games.
Not in today's game.
Exactly.
I feel
And
like you used to see Peyton Manning. He could lead kind of nobodies. I mean, the Broncos, they were all right when they won, offensively, but you can have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers too, and he would bring this beat up Packers team into the playoffs. You
Jared
could do that.
Abbrederis and Jeff Janis.
Exactly. those were the days where he's throwing to nobodies. But nowadays, I feel you look at the Chiefs. I mean, yeah, they have Patrick Mahomes and everything, but their defense has always been decent. They always have these crafty guys like Rashid Rice where they can just do all this. Where I think if you have a good quarterback, it's really good to have, but that's not going to do you a whole lot anymore. It'll get you there, but it's not going to get you deep.
I agree. And I will say that is that's the exception is the Chiefs because they have Andy Reid, who's one of the most creative offensive play callers. With the Bills, there's not much creativity in their pass plays or just any of the play calling because it all relies on Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
It all relies on Josh Allen. It's either he's going to chuck something 50 yards down the field, maybe it's intercepted, maybe it's not, or he's going to run a QB power 10 yards to the right or something like that. So it's not you need to have someone that understands the personnel of the offense, and I really don't think that, they hit their groove in the second half of the season, but you just can't rely so much on your quarterback. You're not going to win games like that.
I agree 100%. And just going on what you said about Atlanta, I think you guys have to go after Kirk. I love Kirk Cousins. I went about it on Monday's show, but I won't go into that further. But I think Kirk Cousins on the Falcons is the move that needs to be made. I think that is a huge leap in terms of just overall talent production. Not just Justin Jefferson, but Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and now Bijan's going to actually be free to do what he wants with Raheem Morris. And I would like to see the Falcons go edge rusher and at 8, someone like Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
Real quick, since you had mentioned your team, I do want to talk about the Titans real quick. We have $82 million in cap space, and I would really like us to see us make a couple splashes in free agency. I really wanted to get T. Higgins, but unfortunately the Bengals franchise tagged him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Tyler Boyd.
yes,
I mean,
that's exactly what I was about to say. Next best thing, Tyler Boyd. I would love to see us get him. Van Jefferson's also a free agent this year. Another receiver that I would like. Another big name that I'd like to get is Juwan Jennings. He just came off game of his life in the Super Bowl, and he's now set to be a free agent. I'm hoping because of that one game we wouldn't overpay, but if he was willing to accept something like a 2-year, $22 million deal with a guy like Will Levis to pair with DeAndre Hopkins, I'm so ready for this offense next year just to explode, and I really can't wait, and I really hope we get Joe Alt at 7 because he's the best offensive lineman in the draft by far. That maybe get a couple wide receivers round 2 and 3, sign a guy like Tyler Boyd, Van Jefferson, Juwan Jennings, and that offense next year under Callahan is just going to be so fun to watch. I think Will Levis is that guy. I fully believe in him 100%, and I think if the Titans can bolster up their weapons next year, they're going to be a fun team to watch. I love Will Levis. I think he's the guy.
Oh, man, that's a first I've ever heard somebody give credit to Will Levis. I mean,
That first game proved that he can be that guy.
I
I know he
do.
kind of struggled afterwards, but it's because our offensive line gave him no time to throw. I mean, that's the whole reason why Tannehill was serviceable. I mean, he wasn't elite by any means, but if the most important thing you can do is have a good offensive lineman. Once you have a good offensive line, then you can truly judge a quarterback's talent. That's why all these rookie quarterbacks that go first and second overall, like Bryce Young, for example, you can't really judge them because they don't have any time to throw. That's why I still have hope for like a guy like Zach Wilson, because he's never had an actual offensive line to protect him. I think if you put him under like an offensive line like the Chiefs or something like that, he's not quite Mahomes level, but at least we can actually judge his overall quarterbacking ability before he gets sacked in 2.2 seconds. So that being said, Titans bolster the O-line, get some receivers, and you're going to see one of the best offenses in the NFL next year.
wow. I'll hold you to it.
We'll remember this, trust me.
Yeah. We'll pull the tape back when you guys are last.
Run it back. There's a lot of tape that I have like relying on from the past few Hawk Dogs.
Well, with that being said, if nobody else has anything to say about the free agency thus far, even though it hasn't even started, which is still crazy to think, we're going to move into our next topic for time's sake, because I feel like we could all talk about it for hours and hours.
Probably.
Because there's just so much that happened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're going to move on to the face of Milwaukee. We kind of touched base on this a little bit last week, where they finally found the rhythm between who they want to focus on. But it's the matter of who is going to be the target for years to come. I mean, because, Giannis is Giannis, but Dame has been hitting it as of lately, and he's been the guy as of, these past few games. So I kind of want to get your guys' opinion as to who you think we have to rely on in order to keep the success going, or who it will be for years to come. Let's start with Zach.
Well, I just want to say it is time to fear the deer again. Very happy about that. They've been playing fantastic since the All-Star break. And I've been saying this for a while. I think I mentioned this on last week's show, but Dame needs to be the one that runs the offense.
Yes.
Yeah.
He needs to be we saw what just happened against the Clippers. I mean, he just dropped 41 on a very good Clippers team. I just think that it's so much more. He is so much more offense to offer than Giannis does.
Yeah.
And I know that's weird to say, but I mean, Giannis does just like go in the paint, just dunk on people. But I mean, Dame with that perimeter scoring, you need that. And going a little bit off topic, I think this kind of makes Middleton look bad, just with how well they've been playing recently. Shout out to my dad, because I know we talk about Middleton all the time, but he's just
Mid.
Yeah, recently he has been like that. They're playing really well without him. He's never available, and he's just not the guy he was. Like, yeah, okay, he played like prime Jordan sometimes before he got injured, but after he got injured, he just hasn't been that same guy. Now, I think that he should be probably reduced to a six-man role. I think that scoring coming off the bench, leading that second unit, I think would be perfect for him. But just to answer like the overall question, I think running the offense through Dame is going to lead them to more success down the field.
That's definitely what it seems like as of right now, because, if you look back at the recent game, definitely shows that. Hearing somebody say that about Middleton, though, is like, it's so nice to hear, because I've never been a fan of Middleton. Never.
Ever.
Nah. I mean, maybe.
Prime Jordan
maybe.
Middleton in the 2021
that
finals.
21
Come on,
run.
Rob.
That was it. That was it. Just for like a week. I was like, all right, this guy's pretty cool. And then he returned to Middleton, and I was like, nope, never mind. He's still Fishman. So you putting him to. You
better hope he never hears that.
You putting him to a sixth-man role is kind of crazy. I mean, even though like I'm a Middleton hater, is a sixth man? I feel like is a little bit harsh. I mean, I think
Their starting lineup has been fantastic lately.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. And they've been 6-0 since the All-Star break.
To go off what you said, since the All-Star break, everyone was kind of overreacting, are the Bucks, in trouble after they fired Adrian Griffin? And I knew from the beginning, I was like, Doc Rivers is a defensive-minded coach. Anytime you hire a coach mid-season, you're going to have some, learning curves, some speed bumps. That being said, one thing I really want to highlight about the Bucks is just how great defensively they've been.
Mm-hmm.
Since the All-Star break, in the 6 games, or 6-0, they've allowed 98.6 points per game. In today's NBA is just
It really is.
Because the average team, you mentioned earlier, it's like 113, 114 points per game. The Grizzlies, bottom of the league, because I'm a Grizzlies fan, I know they average 106. But 106, 10 years ago, you're like, wow, that's a high-powered offense. But because of just how offensive-minded the game is today, holding a team to 98.6 points per game, and it's not like they're playing bad teams either. Yes, they played the Hornets twice, but I mean, the Clippers, they held to 106. 76ers, 98. I know that's without Embiid, but still
two
team to mess with
pretty big teams, yeah.
7 at Minnesota. It's just tremendous. That being said, with the question at mind, who is the face of Milwaukee? I'm going to have to disagree with you. When I think Milwaukee, I know this is Dame's first year, but when I think Milwaukee Bucks and a guy who is the face of the franchise, without a doubt, 100%, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, and it's just strictly based off the legacy he's already built in Milwaukee. I know you can say, make an argument, oh, Dame's the closer for the team now, they actually have someone. If I want someone to get me a bucket in clutch time, as clutch as Dame is, if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, it's still got to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, because he is the embodiment of the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, you close your eyes and say Milwaukee Buck, Giannis Antetokounmpo comes to mind. He is, as long as he's a Buck, will be the face of the team. He needs to be the guy, and Dame's a tremendous second option, and this is actually the first time in Dame's career that he can say he's been a second option, and on nights that Giannis is bad, Lillard as a second option is significantly better than Middleton, don't get me wrong. But that being said, the face of the Milwaukee Bucks, if you have a player graphic and you have the person in the front and the two people behind him, it's Giannis front and center 100% of the time.
Well, just to clear that up, I'm not saying that Dame is the face of the Bucks. I think Giannis through and through, no question, is the face. I just think the offense going forward needs to run through Dame.
So yeah, you're talking about the key to success is going through Dame.
Yes.
I still believe it needs to go through Giannis. I think I think Dame perimeter-wise and three-point shooting obviously is significantly better of Giannis, but I mean, if you need a play, say it's a tie game, 30 seconds to go, game 6 of a Eastern Conference playoff series, I run a play for Giannis 100% of the time. And if he gets double teamed because he already has 42, then kick it out to Lillard and you go up by 3. But that being said, the first option always needs to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. In my personal opinion.
Oh yeah, I agree with you too, because I mean, Dame's defense isn't really what Giannis's is. Giannis is good at both ways. I mean, Dame is obviously the better offensive player. But
depends on what you value, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
Because perimeter scoring is more flashy. But I mean, in terms of just unguardable,
Giannis all day.
Bucket, I'd run it through Giannis.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, Giannis, it's pretty much known he's the face of the Bucks. But I agree with Zach. If you have Dame bringing up the ball, I think he is more relaxed, more efficient, more used to that. We saw that happen, and I think that if you can do that and have Giannis, you have these two areas you have to stop. And that's what everyone wanted coming in, and it kind of became more everyone wanted the pick and roll and everything. That didn't happen a whole lot. I think that Giannis is still the face. I think Dame can make an argument for that if he continues to play as the point guard, and he if they could just get him to run through him, open him up, make him feel more relaxed, he'll do a lot more. I mean, we saw what happened, because if you watch the game, he wasn't just hitting threes. He had 3-and-1s. He was driving straight to the basket. He wasn't backing down from anybody. He had a clutch steal as well. I mean, another thing, too, is I think Pat Bev was an incredible pickup.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Everyone, when it happened, they were like, it's all right. And I just knew that's exactly what they needed. It was a guy that could get in someone's head, anyone. You saw him
Reminds me of P.J. Tucker.
Exactly. He got in the head of DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan's usually just this flat-faced guy. He gets him a tech and everything. Him and Bobby Portis, they're really crowd energizers. And I think Pat Bev was a perfect pickup. He can hit a 3 pretty often if you need, but he's always there where Dame can focus on scoring. Pat Bev can get there, usually the star-studded point guard or shooting guard, and that's that. It's a perfect duo that works. And I think Bobby Portis should be 6th man of the year. I mean, he is you saw 28 and 16 rebounds. He gets more rebounds than Lopez 90% of the time, and he's always there to. He's the star, where you take Giannis and Dame out, and even if Middleton is playing, which isn't often either, Bobby Portis is going to be the main scorer. I mean, he's going to be one. I think AJ Green is really good recently too, but Bobby Portis is the guy. and he puts up really efficient numbers. It's not shooting like 4 for like 13. It's shooting like 8 for like 13 instead. I don't know. I'm excited how the Bucks are doing. I hope that they can win against Golden State tonight, which I don't even think they're favored to win the game
They're,
against Golden State.
4.5 point underdogs.
Yeah,
Ooh.
which I mean,
The
I hope.
Giannis effect.
On the road, I guess. But
Yeah,
still.
I know. I think this next upcoming road, they play a lot of really hard teams. If they can even come out like, I think they play
500.
like 16s. If they can come out like 500, yeah. I mean, that's like, Dame gets better as the season goes on, in my opinion.
He really does. I mean, season
Especially
after
come
season.
playoff time.
Yeah.
It's like what Shaq said, you can't be so nice. He hasn't been recently, and he just like, he cooks you. And then Giannis, obviously, too, when he's mad, I mean, nobody can stop him, honestly.
angry
If he's
Giannis.
mad, it's like Shaq. Nobody can stop him.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I'm excited to see what happens. I think they made really good moves. I just hope Doc Rivers gets over the hump of choking in the playoffs, and we kind of, defeat that, and they win, But
So, just to clarify, who do you think is the guy that they got to go through the success? Is it, you said Dame?
I think, like, if all else fails, go through Giannis, but I would filter everything through Dame first, and because he knows how a lot of it works. He knows how to, like, get everything going. I mean, he made, like, Nurkic look good on the Blazers. He made all these people look good on the Blazers. And you already have Giannis, you have Bobby and everything. I think if you can get Dame relaxed, then he doesn't shoot so poorly. He doesn't force these shots. He doesn't get these turnovers. And then you go to Giannis. And I disagree with you a little bit, Brendan. If there's like 30 seconds, I'm taking Dame.
Respectfully
I mean,
disagree.
He's
But
one of the clutchest players.
He has hit some
in
buzzer
this generation.
beaters,
I'm
but
not denying
Giannis.
it. Like but notice I said tie game in my hypothetical. I didn't say down 3
fair
because I said tie game, 30 seconds to go, or like even like last shot of the game, tie game.
Mm-hmm.
Giannis to the hole every time.
I think it
I agree.
depends on
I think that's the way to
team.
go.
I think it could depend on the team. If it's like a bigger team, kind of like Minnesota, where maybe Giannis won't be able to drive as far, like I would take Dame. I think if they're down, I would take Dame. Maybe if they're tied, I mean, Giannis will always have a surefire, like, I don't know, like back down, into the hoop. But yeah, I mean, I
Losing,
guess
I
that
would
one's
say
a little, yeah, it's either or. But I'm excited now that they've kind of it's snowballing, and they're getting like angrier. They're not being as nice, and I think that their defense, again, I mean, it's shown they've been really good. And like, yeah, they played the Hornets, which, but I think if they can come through this next 8-game stretch, you got to watch out for them.
I already think that, I mean, they could be a team to watch out for later on in the season. But another question that I wanted to ask right before that we get into our hockey segment is who actually no, I have to bring this up because this is a good article that was recommended to me today for this topic. It was about how Giannis is very humble now. I mean, back in 2020, he was more so wanting the award, but now he's more so wanting just the success for his team and everything. So he's not really chasing after, stuff for himself. But if somebody is up by like 45 in the fourth, he's going to let them take the ride. He's not going to do anything. So I forget why this was an article recommended to me now that I say it out loud. But I'll just ask my question. Who would you guys say is the designated 3? Because it's not as apparent as it was like the previous seasons anymore. Would you put Brook Lopez in there?
I would say Brook is the best third option.
Give me Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I'm taking
Give
Bobby.
me Bobby
I mean,
Portis.
this season, Brook has just not done much. I mean, he doesn't get rebounds anymore. He thinks that he's Dame sometimes, where he's pulling up from 3 over like 6 times a game.
Like, keep it going, man. I think Brook's the splash mountain. So I like.
I do. I mean, he's tied for the most 100 blocks, 100 threes in a season with 4 seasons.
His job isn't to rebound. You got Giannis to do that for you. I think if Dame and Giannis are covered up, if I need one guy to hit a shot for me,
Yeah.
it's not those two.
I go to Brook. Brook has been so controversial this year. Like, I remember, like 2 months ago, maybe everybody was saying like, no, we don't like Brook Lopez. He's washed. And now all of a sudden everybody's saying like, okay, this guy's not that bad.
He's fine.
I've liked him all along, to be honest.
Well, sorry, just real quick. It's a fair point because his role right now is just the shot blocking, shooting threes. That's all he does. That's his role.
Yeah, I mean, I would think he's a lot higher, but if you look at the stats of a lot of games, opposing centers have pretty decent games, pretty good games against him, and I just think that his defense against other centers hasn't been as great as it has been in the past. I mean, he doesn't need that heavy of a load as he did maybe in past years, because now you have Dame, now you have Giannis, and I mean, I guess Middleton when he's there, but I see Bobby Portis as, I mean, the city loves him. He's able to do a lot. I mean, Brook's good. He just, I don't know. I need to see a little more from him.
So who would you say is the third guy then? Because it's obviously Giannis and Dame.
I would say Bobby. I mean,
Wow.
he just I mean, especially recently, he's been really hot. He always brings energy into the game. He's a good two-way player. He can hit pretty clutch shots, I guess you could say, and he can hit shots outside and also drive to the rim as well. So I think that's my third guy.
Recency bias is so huge.
No. I like this Bobby Portis love that we're giving it to him. I thought he should have won sixth man last year, too.
I thought so too.
100%, yeah. But just going back to Brook Lopez, he isn't. I'm not going to say he's bad in defensively, because obviously he's one of the greatest shot blockers in the league. But no one really talks about how bad he is in a pick and roll. Because he plays drop coverage. I mean, we saw in the in-season tournament when they were playing the Pacers, he got absolutely cooked. Tyrese Halliburton was just dishing out 20 assists a game. Miles Turner would just pop out for a three. So I think he's a big liability when it comes to just drop coverage in a pick and roll. I still think he's great interior, defensively, but I think in pick and rolls, he just gets picked on.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, if nobody has anything else to add on the Bucks topic, we're going to move into our hockey segment. Hawks and hockey with just nearly a month left of the season. We're going to go over the Stanley Cup playoff spots currently, who might sneak in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get in depth into this as normal, but also a unsurprising news is the Devils' firing of Lindy Ruff and the interim coach Travis Green. What he may bring, I don't know if we're going to get into that fully this time, but we'll see. So for the Stanley Cup playoff spots currently, who wants to start us off with it?
Well, considering I have one of the only contending teams,
lucky.
I can get started. Predators were just on a 8-game win streak, one of the hottest teams in hockey. We unfortunately lost last night to the Canadiens in overtime. Pretty heartbreaking loss. That being said, season ends today. We're in the playoffs, which a month ago I don't think I could have comfortably said. We were kind of one of those fringe teams, and it was looking like it was going to be between us, the Blues, and the Wild. Wild started slowly falling down. The Blues kind of plateaued, going 500. And the Predators made that winning streak run that they really needed to make to contend for a playoff spot. And just in terms of just how fluid their passing is, defense, Saros, who I called out a couple weeks ago, has finally come into his own, gave up around 2.5 goals per game during that win streak. Just insane stuff from the defense. Forsberg was killing it per usual. Evangelista showed some flashes because he's one of our best young guys. And overall, man, Predators have just been a fun team to watch, just strictly for my team. Real quick, referencing the firing, has there ever been a more disappointing team in the last 10, 15 years?
I can't think of one, man.
Devils?
I mean,
there was such high expectations for them this season. I mean, you got Jack Hughes and Shire, and all of a sudden, what happened, man? Is it a coaching issue? Is it a lack of chemistry? severely disappointing, and it's just a shame that much talent's being underutilized.
Yeah, it was a bunch of things for the Devils. I mean, the locker room wasn't really there. Their defense was just abysmal, letting things happen that shouldn't have happened. I think the firing is what they needed to do. I look forward to who's going to be the coach next season, because I don't think Green's going to be the guy forever. At least he shouldn't be. But it was definitely a smart move for them. I mean, last season they were one of the best. They were like a top 10 team, I believe. And then I believe last semester, one of the guys on the show said that they lost their tactic of surprise, which going into the season last year, that kind of gave them the groove. And then with that gone, they just completely fell apart. And it's just, they haven't been the same since. So, yeah.
Just fell off the bus.
Yeah, they're looking to hit it right again, but it's going to be tough months for them.
Yeah, I think a pretty big storyline when it comes to like fringe playoff teams is the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, they won the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and now they've recently dropped 6 out of their last 7, 8 out of their last 10. And, I mean, they're just not what they looked like last year. This was a team that, it was relatively new, but they just burst onto the scene, and they were just winning games left and right. And now they're possibly going to be out of playoff contention if they keep losing games like this. And it's not even like they're close games. I mean, you got 7-3 in there, you got 7-2 in there. So, I mean, they got to get back into form. I think the biggest storyline, while this isn't a fringe playoff team, I think the biggest storyline right now is the Florida Panthers.
Bingo.
Who are top of the conference, and they just got, who was it, Tarasenko?
Tarasenko. Yep.
And obviously the Panthers did lose to the Vegas Golden Knights last year, and seems like they're looking for revenge, and with this move, I think they might have it.
Undoubtedly the favorite to win the Cup.
Yeah, I mean, with this trade, when I saw it in class earlier today, it kind of threw me off because I wasn't expecting that kind of a fleece for them. I mean, just a couple of draft picks in return. And he's already going with some high-quality point scores with Sam Reinhart, Carter Vate. I don't know how to pronounce that, unfortunately. Hockey names are just so hard.
They are,
Yeah.
too.
And then Matthew Tkachuk, of course. I mean, those guys, if you're pairing up him with 41 points with guys that have 45, 30, and 21, you're already, mixing it up for a masterpiece of offense. And they went pretty deep last year, looking to seal it up this time. I think it was a great move.
Tremendous.
What?
Tremendous.
Oh, tremendous. Yeah, tremendous is putting it lightly. Just for that amount for Ottawa to just, I still can't believe that. That's just a straight up fleece. In my opinion, that's a fleece.
And they're not even paying his full salary.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the more you think about it, the more wild it is. Austin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, going off the Panthers, I mean, they're already the 1 seed, and they just get
Even
a top.
better.
That's just, that's crazy. I feel like now they have their foot in the door to kind of get the cup already. I mean, it's kind of like giving a top team, it's like giving the Warriors KD.
It's giving. Oh my gosh.
No. It's giving the Warriors KD. That's what
Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
I thought you were doing
So-
something else right there.
No,
All right.
no,
Okay.
I'm not one of those people.
Trust me.
I'm not one of those people. But, it's like giving a good team a star player, and they're already a really good team. I think that they, are the favorites, I guess you could say. My Flames, they're
Womp,
Down
womp.
in flames.
Good one. Good
they
one.
fell down in flames. You just lost to the Kraken recently, so congrats. But yeah, I don't know. We're talking about kind of borderline people, right?
Uh-huh.
The Wild too. They're pretty much out. I would say. I mean, I don't know. The Red Wings, they're pretty close between the Lightning. To fit record-wise, they could. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty lopsided between, obviously, a lot of the divisions are pretty. You got 40-win teams, and then it's really bad teams, 40 the other way.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting race thus far. We'll probably get into it a little bit more next week or the week after. But With that being said, thank you for listening to Hawk Talk here on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. Hope you have a good day. We're gonna get you back to some more music here on the station. Have a good one.